Rockhopper here, and today I'm at Palatki, some ancient ruins outside of Sedona, and we've got a tour guide named Tony who's going to tell us all about this place and the history of the native people that lived here and a whole lot more. Out in the Red Rock Canyons near Sedona, Arizona, there's a place where people have resided for many, many years. One was named Charles Willard. Willard petitioned the government to homestead a piece of land in one of the canyons, saying that he wanted to live there and plant an orchard. They granted him the land, and at the age of 63, he first lived in a cave on the property for 2 years before building a house in 1924. He then set about planting 2,000 fruit trees. He lived in the house until 1938. The house you see at Palatki today, now the visitor center, was once Mr. Willard's home. But long before Willard's arrival, native people inhabited the region. Our guide Tony will tell us about who lived here and when and how they survived.
What we have here is a catch basin that holds water when it rains. So the dwelling is right up the path here, and it would be a convenient place to come down and collect water when water is here. If this fills up enough, it'll run around the corner, down this way, and then out into the field. So they could dam this up if they wanted to, have it fill up higher if they needed more water down there, take the dam down and let the water rush down into the field. So that was one of the ways we think that they irrigated their farm.
And this was a natural formation, or did they help by moving things here to help with the flow?
No, this was natural. A geologist told me that this whole area, everywhere where you see red rock, at one time an ocean underwater, millions and millions of years ago.
Yes.
And the rock that's above it is white. That was the rock that stood out of the water. So you can see some rocks, some ledges will have like a line, white rock on top, and then red rock all the way down to the ground. We're basically standing at the bottom of an ocean. We believe these rocks did not fall from up there, because if they would have fallen, they probably would have just fell closer to the face. We think these rocks piled up because of the force of the ocean that was here. Pushed them here. They kept piling up one on top of another based on the rush of the water that went through here. This is one of my favorite spots in the whole canyon. I sit here and I'm like, I can almost feel the water.
The energy.
The energy of the water rushing. It's in the rocks. If you look at the rocks, you can see the waves moving over the face of the rocks itself. I can also picture the Sedona people coming down, kids jumping in this, playing, people just sitting around enjoying the coolness and the water itself. It's a really neat spot in the canyon. At the bottom of all of these waterfalls, for most of them, there's a catchment area associated with it. They survived. Actually flourished. Not survived. They flourished here. Why did they come up all the way here to build their homes when they could have built it down there? They had all the materials they needed down there. Why did they come up all the way up here to put this huge structure here? Any ideas?
Protection?
Yeah. Protection in a number of different ways. Protection from the weather. We've got this roof above us, natural roof that would protect it from rain and snow. I have stood here, pouring rain. I put my hand out here, drenched. So, put my hand here, completely dry, not a drop of water. The span of 5 feet. This structure has never felt a drop of rain, ever. If it did, it wouldn't be here. They knew to put it here because it would be protected. A couple other reasons. Why else? That's one really important reason. They knew it would last.
Near to the water source.
Oh, it's close to the catch basin. What else?
Protection from human enemies, or no?
No, the very friendly people they traded with, very friendly tribes. They all pretty much got along. No warring, no fighting.
Is there some spiritual reason?
Possibly. We don't know what that is, but possibly. And I'll explain that in just a minute. Temperature. It gets really hot down there. Yeah. In the middle of the summer. 95, 105 degrees. Up here, we've got natural cooling system. So in the summer, the sun comes up this way, over the cliff. So this area stays pretty much in the shade till about 1:30 in the afternoon. And then around 1:30, 2 o'clock, the sun starts coming in. So in the summertime, you've got natural shade almost all day. In the evening, the temperature drops maybe 20 degrees, cools the rocks. The rocks stay cool during the day till about 1:30. Sun hits it, warms up till about 5:30, 6 o'clock. 7 o'clock at night, sun goes down, starts cooling again for the evening, and so on.
So it acts like a radiator in the night,
Exactly.
keeping them warm.
Keeping them warm and cool in the day. In the winter, the sun comes up over there, 6:30 in the morning, comes up, immediately throws light and sunshine on the structure. This is in the winter. Heats the whole place up for them for the day and keeps getting warmer and warmer. When the night comes and it drops down to maybe 40, 35 degrees, it's radiating heat for them. So in the summer, in the summertime, natural cooling. In the wintertime, natural heating. So they knew it was important to put it here. So we've got heating and cooling. We've got protection from the weather. They only needed to build 3 walls instead of 4 walls because the wall that they used behind it was already there. So less manpower, less energy. And you turn around and we've got location, location, location. Kind of a nice thing to look at every morning when you wake up.
But how many people?
Yeah, good question. So we know that they started building, and I say we know, this I can say we know. They started building right around 1100 AD. We know that because the only thing we've disturbed in this whole building, in this whole dwelling, is this log right here. So I believe it was in the late 50s, we took this log out and we carbon dated it. And the data told us that it was cut down in about 1050. So about almost 1,000 years ago. And then we measured the circumference of the log itself, and that told us that that log was about 50 years old when they cut it down. So we know now that about 1050, it started growing. 50 years later, they cut it down and they put it there. So now we know about 1100, they started building this. And through research and excavating other sites in the area like this, they were here for about 175 years. And they grew in population over time, over that 175-year period. So they started, let's say, about 1100, and they started building. This was the first room over here, right here. That, on the other side of this wall, there's a doorway. And this room goes to right here. You can kind of see the indentation. There's a wall there. This is the wall that separates room 1 and room 2. Room 2 starts here. We can walk back here. Ends right here with this wall. Now, you look at this huge rock right here. It takes up half of the wall inside.
Yeah.
So they don't have to build another huge full wall. They knew this rock was here, that it was going to be part of the second room's wall. So here's the wall of the second room. These were either used as doorways or windows, depending on how they wanted to use them. So the second room went from here to about here, right here. And so there's another wall right here. These holes back here, see the holes in the wall?
Yeah.
They are used to support these beams that went all the way across each room, all the way to the back wall. On top of these beams, they would put smaller branches and other organic materials, twigs, things like that. And then on top of that, they would put about 12 inches of stucco. So the floor and the ceiling in each of these rooms is about 12 to 16 inches thick. Can you imagine the weight of that ceiling going all the way across, resting on these timbers? So we've got room 3, room 4, and then at the end, room 5, which has no windows. So we believe it was a storage room for the crops. So as the population increases, they need more space. So they decide to build a second story. The second story would have probably started right around here, go across to right about here, and then all the way across to there. So right above the first story rooms, we get 5 rooms on the bottom, and then we have 4 rooms on top of that, and then another ceiling. On top of the second story ceiling, they built a patio, which extended from here up. So not only do they have their living quarters, which they basically just slept and ate in, now they have patios to go up and rest and relax and
look at the sunset.
and cool off. Now, this is the wall to the patio up there, the rooftop. Why do you think they would build a wall this big and put it all the way up there? Why didn't they just leave it plain? Why would they build a little wall like this?
To protect them from the sun?
No, because there's no ceiling. It's just open. This is in the shade most of the day, except towards the end of the day. Besides adults here,
Babies.
babies and kids.
So it was a play area.
It was not only a play area, they didn't want their kids falling off the roof.
Okay.
We think. That's our best guess. It makes sense. Since the wall is only this high, you would think it's not going to protect an adult, but it would protect a kid.
Do they have the patent for a kids garden? The kids guards that to prevent the kids from falling down the stairs?
Exactly.
The patents should go to these guys.
Exactly. They used ladders. There's no stairs in here. So they would use ladders to get from one level to another. The other dwelling down here, over there.
So this was added on as the population increased down there.
Yes. So we have another 5 rooms here. We believe 4 of the rooms were used for living quarters. This room right here is square. It's not rounded like the other one, so we think it was used as a meeting place, maybe for ceremonies, maybe for celebrations, but it definitely was different than the other rooms that people lived in. So we assume because it was so different, it was used for a different purpose. And now we have the population at about 80 people that lived here. Started out, we think, about 30 to 40, and then increased over that 175 years to 80 people. So they needed more space. You can see right here how thick the walls are to the structure. Now this structure is not as sturdy as this one because they didn't build it as sturdy, because we think as time went on, they knew they weren't going to be staying here long term, or because they were starting to run out of easily accessible building materials. So these walls on the first floor are much thicker than the first story walls of that structure. That's why that one fell down sooner than this structure. In 1895, archaeologists from the Smithsonian Museum came here looking for dwellings in the area, and he took a picture from the rock over there of this whole dwelling. We have that picture down in the visitor center. The picture looks exactly like this structure does now. So we know from 1895 till now, this looks exactly the same. So we assume it looked exactly the same when the Sinagua people lived here. I think his last name is Reeves. He came back in 1911. He did some excavating of the site. He collected some artifacts, and supposedly he sent them back to the Smithsonian Museum. They never got there. So we think he had a private collection on the side that he kept what he found here. We've never found it since. We probably wouldn't even know it came from here, unless it was labeled. But we haven't found it. So other than that short period of 1911, nobody has been here to excavate this site. It's not been looted, it's not been messed with, it's just natural, the way the Sinagua people left it in about 1270.
I'm seeing what looks to be maybe evidence of pictographs, some kind of color up there on the rock. What is that? You see a little bit there.
Yeah.
On the right.
And then a little bit over there.
That's basically natural minerals coming out of the wall. The only pictograph that we know of is here, right up here. See right there? You see my red marker way up there? It's a white shield.
Oh, yes.
Right here, circle, with a square in the middle of it.
Oh, yeah.
That's definitely a pictograph. And we think it's a shield, like you'd put on your mailbox to tell people this is who we are, we live here. And again, it's in a prominent position coming up the trail to tell people this is our symbol. We think there's one next to it, in that white area next to it, but it's very, very faint. But we know for sure that this one is probably a shield. But that's the only rock art or rock messaging we found here. They would put a corn kernel in it. They would put in the same hole a bean sprout or a bean seed, and then a squash seed. The corn would grow first, and then after the corn got about this high or so, the bean would sprout and start wrapping itself around the corn for stability. And the corn and the beans traded nutrients together, so they would grow together. And then the squash seed would sprout, like a pumpkin patch, would cover the ground. And what that did was it preserved the ground from the heat, from the sun, keep it nice and shaded, and it would also preserve any moisture that was under the plants. So you have these three plants, corn, beans, and squash, all working together to grow as best as possible. The Native Americans called those the three sisters. At least the sisters, they get along and work well together. If you eat a meal, corn,
Like
beans, and squash,
you had the three sisters, yeah.
you had that?
Yeah.
Completely nutritious meal. You don't need any meat. You don't need any additional proteins. The crop was very abundant down there. They were excellent farmers. So they had enough food, they had water, they had people coming to them from all over the country, even all the way down from Mexico. People were coming up here to trade for food. So they swapped pottery, they traded feathers, they traded textiles, all sorts of things. But this was kind of like the food center.
So people would come to them,
They would stay here, yeah. Basically, this was one of the biggest trading routes in the whole area. All the way down from Mexico, all the way up to here. Master farmers. They knew exactly what they were doing. And this wasn't their first rodeo. They just didn't show up here and it's like, oh, let's build a house like this. They had built homes like this many, many times before. They probably had with them master builders, older people that knew how to do this, and they taught the young over time how to build homes like this. Just because of the engineering, the location, just all that went involved to building a structure like this. We know is a piece of pottery from what you would find like here. And there's all sorts of these shards in this area. We know it's from the Sinagua people because they didn't decorate their pottery. It was very plain. This is the outside, just a plain brown clay. And then this is the inside based on where the hot wood was, or stones that fired it, that got it so hot it turned into stone. So this is clay turned into stone. We know this is the inside because of the curvature. You can kind of see the curve to it.
Yeah.
That this would be the inside, this could be a bowl, maybe about that round. And we know it was from them because it was so smooth and not decorated. So if you find anything like that, there's a billion black rocks. But if you pick it up and you feel how smooth it is, and it may be black and brown on either side, you know it's a piece of pottery. This piece of pottery we know was traded. They didn't decorate their pottery. And this one was probably a wide bowl. I'm a potter. I work on the wheel. So I can tell because of the way of the curvature and the slant to it here that this was probably a wide, like a cereal bowl, wide flat bowl, decorated on the inside. Because when you look at a bowl, you're not looking at the side. You're looking at the inside of the bowl. So they would have decorated that first. So we know this isn't from here, but they probably traded food or whatever for a pretty bowl. Look at the lip on it. It's just beautiful the way it's made. And again, these are all over here. This, I think, is very cool. That's their corn. This is the size of their corn that they grew. This is about average, a little bit bigger sometimes, a little bit smaller sometimes. Not like the genetically modified corn we have now that's giant. You know, over the last 100 years we've turned it into a monster. Compared to this. And this is just dried. It doesn't have the kernels on it. It's basically just a cob. This is an interesting find. I found one of these yesterday. I was mowing the grass down there. It's a piece of obsidian. This is not natural to this area. It's volcanic.
Weapon?
Could have been.
Or like tool?
A tool, yeah. It's volcanic glass, natural glass. So the molten lava that would come out of the volcano or spill out, some of it would turn into glass like this. This is probably from outside of Phoenix, Superstition area, Apache Junction. They have a lot of what's called Apache tears, balls about this big, rocks. When you split them open, it's all glass, volcanic glass that was spewed from the volcanoes. So this was highly traded. They really worked, you know, it was a good trade to get obsidian up here because it wasn't natural. And it has a very, very sharp edge. You chip the edge off of there and it's like a razor. Other pieces of pottery from all different places in the United States, Mexico, all the way up to here. This is a modern arrowhead that one of our volunteers chipped. But it would have been similar to what they would have made here. Remember the pods I said about the mesquite tree that would grow these and they would crush this and turn it into powder, into flour? That tree right there, the little one, that's a mesquite tree. Right now it's got little fuzzy balls on it. In the fall, that turns into these pods that hang on the tree and they grind them up and turn them into
these
powder.
holes, is that someone just used it as a...
It's probably natural. Could have been
natural.
an insect that
Just
did
drilled
that.
a hole into...
Yeah. This could have been used for cutting, could have been used for scraping. You know, you kind of pick them up and put them in your hand to get a feel for how they were used.
Because there was evidence of Clovis points in the area that led people to believe that they hunted here thousands of years ago.
Exactly. Welcome to the grotto. It's called the grotto because grotto means place with water. When it rains, depending on how hard it rains or how deep the snow is when it melts, rain will fall through this crack in the ceiling. It'll come down here, kind of go down, and then fill this whole area with water. If it's raining hard, water will shoot out of here like a waterfall and come down and splash in this area. The natural water line is this. So if it gets any higher than this, it'll run off here and then down the canyon that way. So we have water, we've got shade, and about 10:30 in the morning, if there's water here, the rays of the sun start there. They'll come in and shine right on this, and this whole area lights up with ripples of reflected light. You have snow globes in Africa? You shake them?
The big one.
Yeah, there's no snow.
There's no
Yeah. Okay, well we have what's called a snow globe. It's a glass ball with snow in it. You shake it, and all the snow kind of floats around. It's exactly what this looks like, but only with light. So you get a complete immersion of flickering light in here. It's a beautiful sight, wonderful.
And that happens when?
When there's water,
Oh.
and in the morning when the sun shines right on it. We've got that, we've got water, we've got coolness. We've just got a nice place to hang out and enjoy the coolness. I can see kids playing in the water here, women maybe washing their hair, just relaxing. So another thing we do as humans when we relax, I think, is we start drawing, creating things. So maybe some were making moccasins or textiles or clothes or little pieces of toys for their kids out of natural materials. And some people were drawing. So that's what all of this is on the walls. Native people would rather us call these messages instead of art. Art is interpretive. We think these people drew these figures to leave us a message that they wanted to portray to us and everybody else that came after them. We're going to start with the oldest known markings and then move our way up in time to present day. So let's take a look at what we think are the oldest. Everything I say is we think, based on our technology today. In 10 years, 15 years, I may be giving a whole different spiel because our technology is giving us new information. But based on what we know today, this is the best information we have about what's here. So when archaeologists communicate with each other, say there's an archaeologist in Africa, calls up our archaeologist here, Spencer, and says, "Hey Spencer, I've been looking at your documented pictures online. Can you send me a close-up of panel 27, grouping number 3. Spencer will come up here and he'll know exactly where to go. So the panels are natural areas in the rock. Like this could be panel 1, this could be panel 2, this could be panel 3, and so on. All the way around the whole grotto. I think, I'm not positive, but I think this is panel like about 26, 27, right here. An archaeologist in Africa would say, "Hey Spence, I'm looking at panel 27, and I'm looking really closely at grouping number 3. Spencer knows he's looking right here. What do you think that is? You just came up here, you know, you're looking around and you see this area right here. What do you think that is? You know what it looks like. Don't be too analytical.
I wouldn't have known it was a hieroglyph.
You would think it's just scratching, right? Maybe
Yeah.
graffiti. Maybe.
Graffiti or some natural thing happens.
Yeah,
I would have walked straight past, I wouldn't have noticed it.
exactly. That's exactly what I did. And then after I noticed, I would say, who would do that? Why would you scratch over this beautiful artwork that's here? Well, that's not what it is. So Spencer, our anthropologist, has spent most of his career just studying, and I don't mean just as minimally, but studying these incisions. And they're everywhere. You can see them here, you can see them over here. They're everywhere on this whole area. So what he's discovered with developing special photographic equipment, he would take a ladder, stand on the ladder, look straight at this image, and take thousands of pictures of just like this square right here. And I know that because I've been here with him, and I'm the tripod. I hold the light while he takes the pictures. And after about 3 or 4 hours, I'm like, Spence, you can't do that. My arm can't do this anymore. And I'll say, and he'll go, Tone, just a few more. And it's like another 1,000 pictures he's taking. So what he's doing is he's taking slices of pictures that are the size of grains of sand, and he's trying to find the first scratchings, the first etchings that are behind all the others. So this area, there's one layer of scratching, etching on the wall. Then on top of that, there's another layer of etching on the wall. And then on top of that, there's another one. And sometimes he finds like 17 layers on top of each other. Each layer is a different, I want to say drawing or message. Some layers are like very intricate patterns. It looks like textiles, like a rug of different diamonds and triangles and all different shapes woven together. On top of that, there may be etchings of fish, lizards, snakes. On top of that, maybe birds. So what we're seeing is like looking at a 3D picture of all different layers of pictures on top of each other. We estimate that these were made over time between 6, 12, maybe 15,000 years ago. So when these were put on the wall, there were mammoths, giant like elephants in this area, giant bears, elk, huge elk that the people who were visiting here would hunt. We found evidence of what's called pit houses out there. They're just small round circles that are kind of dug out with stones around them, and they would put thatch roofs over it. That's what they would live in while they were hunting. And then once the herds left, they would follow them and maybe come back the following year to do the same thing. So you think rough estimate, 15,000 years of people coming here to do this on the walls. So it's just not 1100 to 1275 that the Sinagua people lived here. We're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of years. People have been here expressing themselves on the walls. Okay, I'm going to show you another.
So this rock has been protecting these people for thousands of years, effectively.
Yeah. So this grouping right here. See right here? Okay. If you just follow my pointer, we have an X, a white X, white, going here and going here. Can you see the top of the X is here, the other arm of the X is here, and one arm goes down this way, one arm goes down that way. And it's underneath all of this,
Okay.
white. Okay, so we know that's the first layer of paint on the wall. So we kind of guesstimate maybe 6,000 years ago. The next layer of paint is this ribbon right here. That's on top of the white paint. So now we know that came next, maybe 2,000 to 4,000 years ago. On top of that is this drawing right here. What came next is the ladder, because we know the ladder is over this drawing here. What came next is this drawing, because we know the tail is over the ladder. So now we've got a record of what came first, what came second, all the way to the original. This figure here, I'm going to take a guess on what it is. Very few people get it, so just take a guess. What do you think that looks like? We've got this part, this part. What do you think? A boat? Okay.
It's not a bird, is it?
No?
Is it a type of like deer?
Yeah, very, very close.
The horns of the deer, something like
Yeah,
that.
here's the body, here's the head, here's the legs. See those little spindly legs? Front legs, back legs, and then what do you think that is on top of it?
A person.
Yeah, it's a person sitting on a horse. And the person has their arm out like this. What's interesting about the person is they have something on their head. Whether it's a headdress or a helmet or something like that, we don't know for sure. But now we know this is a horse with a person sitting on it. Natives before, they didn't have horses. They weren't riding deer out here. After the Spanish came, they introduced the horse and natives started riding
So you know this
horses.
came after them.
Exactly. So now we know the Spanish were here around 1550 to about 1580. And now we know this drawing can't be any older than 1550 because there were no horses. So now we know that this ladder, which is on top of the horse's head, came after the Spanish were here. So maybe anywhere from 1580 to 1660. So it could have been the Sinagua people that drew this ladder. And then after they were here, people came and drew this animal on top of the ladder. So this may be Apache, this may be Navajo.
But you were saying in Sinagua people are here from 1100 to 1270.
Yeah.
So you're saying this is from 1500, so they couldn't be
These people.
these Sinagua, maybe a different Sinagua people, maybe the
Right.
descendants, yeah.
Yeah. But we know this ladder had to have come after 1550
Yeah.
because it's on top of the horse.
Yes, yes.
Well, it wouldn't have been the Sinagua because they would have been gone already.
Yeah, they were gone like 200 years earlier.
Exactly. So they could have done this or
Yeah.
the X, possibly. More than likely, if they did anything, it would have been more modern looking markings like this. Based on that layering of paint, we can get a general idea of when it was put there.
And also the clues of what's it being photographed.
Exactly.
Painted.
Exactly. We know based on other sites that we've taken samples of the paintings themselves, analyzed it, and then we can tell based on the texture, the color, how it's applied, if it's modern or not. So it's kind of like a timeline right here. And then we can apply that generally to the whole area to figure out ages of things. The next grouping is this one. Very important, front and center. When you come up to the grotto, you're looking right at it. What do you think this grouping is? Right here. We've got the circle, we've got these.
In the mountains and the sun.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We've got an archaeologist on here.
No, that's just if I was drawing the mountains and the sun, I would look like that. That's right.
Well, you're right. Now, why would, and this is really high off the ground, so they made sure when you came up here you saw it. And it takes more effort to draw something up there than it would to be hand level. So it's significant. So if you look at that drawing of mountain range with the sun, you take that picture and you turn it around, it's exactly what we're looking at. Now, it's kind of neat that it's exactly what it looks at, but more significantly, the sun is there. Below the sun, there's a little black triangle. And then over here, there's another little triangle. And over here, there's a third triangle. Okay, so one triangle, two triangles, three black triangles in the sun. So based on that picture, we turn it around. The sun would come up, would be in that area right there between the saddle So that's the first triangle in the sun. We know that's the summer solstice. We know on June 21st, the sun comes up right in that area there. The next triangle comes up right there. The sun comes up right there under where the triangle on the picture would be right there. We know that's the fall equinox. To the right of the mushroom-looking structure, I call it the landing pad. To the right of that is the next triangle, and we know the winter solstice comes up there. So it's basically a calendar of the seasons painted on the wall. So we know that's important for them planting their crops, having an idea of when winter's coming, when summer's coming, how to prepare for time. We take that for granted because we have calendars. They didn't have calendars, so they needed some way to kind of predict the future, to help them learn to plant their crops, and as a help to other people that just came up here to hang out.
It's a very tall child though. To get
Yeah,
up
they probably lifted them up. Yeah, and we can relate to that because we all have kids and we all have had our handprints up on the refrigerator and, you know, given them for your Mother's Day or whatever. So we know that's what that is. That one is, we know, dipped in and then pressed. At other times, they would put their hands on the wall, put paint in their mouth, pigment in their mouth, shoot it on their hands, and it would leave an impression of their hand on the wall. It's called splatter painting. Kind of see it's just splattered on the wall.
person above the animals.
Yeah, we've got a person here. We've got maybe a tree here, or maybe a person with a headdress. We're not sure. And then we have this figure here. A lot of Native American cultures believe there are people emerged from the ground. That's what this is. So, well, I say this is what we think. Maybe it is. We're not really sure. But based on Navajo legend and people coming here, we have a pretty good idea. So we have 4 animals. We've got maybe a tree or a person. This kind of looks like tunneling in the ground. So the Navajo believes there's 4 levels of creation. The first level is water. Second level is ants, specifically ants and insects. The third level, other life forms are forming, fish, birds. And then what brings all of this life to the surface? People. So we've got this figure here. What kind of figure do you think that is?
Farmer.
Farmer? Okay. What else? Just look at the head.
A woman.
A woman. With hair. Okay. And she's standing like this. You're right. She's giving birth, we think. Because she's so close to the animals and that other figure, that tree, and she's so close to this maybe tunneling, I believe, she's giving birth to animals and plants on Earth. I can see people sitting around here eating, being quiet, and just connecting to their ancestors, to their creation story through that picture. We have Navajo people come up here. We had one lady a couple weeks ago in her 30s come up, and she's like, I've been reluctant my whole life to come here. My grandmother and my grandfather talked about this. My mother and father talked about this place. But I didn't want to come because I didn't want to disturb my ancestors. That she could connect to her ancestors. Because she felt the pain. Through pictures like that at wherever else she went to reconnect.
Well, I'd like to give a big thank you to Tony, our guide, and thank you to our visitors from East Africa. Special thanks to our tour guide, Tony. I hope you enjoyed the video out here near Sedona in the desert southwest. Don't forget to give me a like on the video, share, and subscribe. Until next time, this is Rockhopper. I'll see ya.